Hey, 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 and welcome to another episode of Young Black Equestrians, the podcast. We are super excited about this episode. It is with Brittney Chambers, the founder of CBC Therapeutic Horseback Riding Academy in California. Brittney has over 20 years experience with horses. She has ridden in several different disciplines, English, Western, and dressage, and she has experience in training and overall horse husbandry. She opened CBC Therapeutic Horseback Riding Academy in December of 2015 and currently serves approximately 50 students a week, aging 4 and up. She provides lessons and horsemanship classes and horse training for horses enrolled in her program. We are so happy to speak with her today. She is a wealth of knowledge and she definitely dropped some gems in this episode. So if you are loving what she's talking about in this episode, feel free to reach out to her on Facebook, share her episode so her riding academy can get more exposure. She is a fantastic person and we love talking to her. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. You are listening to Young Black Equestrians, the podcast, with your hosts, Aubriana Johnson and Caitlin Gooch. First, Brittney reached out on Instagram just saying that she listened to the podcast and thank you for creating it and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my God, somebody listens to us.
Oh yeah, of course.
But I mean, honestly, on the service that we host the podcast on, it'll say your audience is 35 people. And I'm like, oh, okay. We got 400 followers on Instagram. Where they at? So yeah. I never know if it's accurate or whatever, but I do appreciate getting messages and stuff like that. So, but then I saw this amazing bio. I responded back to her. I was like, I'm sorry. I don't even know who wrote that, but I want somebody to, you wrote it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's amazing. I don't even like talking about myself. So I don't even know if I would be able to write. I mean, I've had to write bios and I think they're not very good. They're not like hers.
It took me a while because I'm like, okay, well, let me just put my resume out there.
Very true. Maybe I just need to do that because I was like, wow, it's amazing. You've done. I mean, it was just written very, very well. So I was like, okay, so we just need to talk to her. That's just it. So, a lot of the information, I guess that we're going to talk about today was in the bio, but obviously it's going to be much better because we're talking to you, not face to face, but
phone to phone.
Phone to phone. So, Brittney, you want to just briefly tell us about yourself? Oh, just kidding. I forgot. Rewind. We start off each episode.
Now we're starting the podcast.
Now. Okay, podcast starts now. We usually start off each episode telling each other what we are thankful for today. So, Brittney, do you want to go first and just share what you are thankful for today?
Yeah, I think today, I'm really just most thankful for all of the parents and the horse owners that I have trusting me, either with their kids or, the horses that I train, for the owners trusting me with their horses and believing in me that I can make a difference and I can make a change. So I think I'm just really thankful for that, for them trusting and believing in me.
That's a very good thing to be thankful for. I know it's a big undertaking and you have a very important job. So
yeah.
Let's see, what am I thankful for? Today, I am thankful for a job where I can sit at a desk at a computer because I know some people hate it, which it has bad days, but being at a computer, I can do stuff that I really want to do. I can work on stuff that I want to work on. But when I'm not at the computer, I'm like running around like a crazy person. So I was thankful for having a slow day and sitting at the computer and working on Young Black Equestrians things and Cowgirl Cameron things. So I'm thankful for that today. What are you thankful for?
I feel like I'll be running out of stuff by the end of the day. Or trying to remember what did I say in my last one.
Yes.
But today, I'm thankful for networking. We, through this podcast, have met a lot of people. Through my dad, I've met a lot of people. Through social media, I've met a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And things are coming together. So I'm thankful for networking.
That is definitely a good thing to be thankful for.
Yes.
All right, Brittney. So briefly tell us about yourself and kind of where you're located, what your current horse or horses are, and what you do.
Okay, well, obviously I'm Brittney. I'm located in Sacramento, California, specifically in the city of Elk Grove, California. I have a horseback riding academy, and I also have a horse training program, so all of my horses are there. I do have two amazing lesson horses they're just worth their weight in gold. And then I have two other horses right now that are in training with me. The horses that, again, kind of rotate, and I also kind of partner with my dad. I do partner with my dad. We do a lot of work with race horses, either current race horses or ex-race horses. If they're current, then we rehab them and get them all healthier. They might just be with us for a layup for rest, and then they go back to the track. Or we'll get some sent in. Like right now, we have some from the Naysavers Foundation where I'm retraining them to be really nice riding horses. And so that's part of it. And then the riding academy, I basically just teaching people about horses, how to ride, the horsemanship aspect of it, because horses is way more than just riding.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So make sure that they learn how to take care of them. I'm starting horsemanship classes next month where we're going to be doing different types of leg wraps, tacking, groundwork techniques, just everything but riding. Mm-hmm. So my goal is to make sure that my riders are very well rounded wherever they go. If they decide to try to ride another horse, they know exactly what to do. I also work with some that may have some mental health needs or some special needs. So the academy is a place where you can come and not feel like you have to compete. But I do have some riders that compete, and then I also have people who just simply love horses. And that's the environment that I created there. Is that if you just want to be around horses and learn about them, come on out, without the pressures of competition. But if you want to go to a competition, okay, well then we can do that. So.
Right.
That's good they have that option.
Yeah, and I think it's the groundwork, the horsemanship, the everything but riding stuff, I feel like is so important. And it makes the riding much easier. Like if somebody tells me they have an issue on their horse's back, I want to see the relationship with them and their horse on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
Because if they don't have one or they don't have a good one on the ground, then you don't need to be on them.
Right.
I mean,
right.
simple as that. So
it's also a little bit safer. I've had several riders come to me from different places, mm-hmm. and they're saying, "Yeah, we can walk, trot, canter, jump, do all this stuff." And I'm like, "But then you don't know how to put on a saddle, or you don't know how to halter the horse."
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, we're going back to the basics, and then we're building you up.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that you know all aspects.
Yeah, yeah. And I hate when people think like the basics are so trivial. Like I feel like a lot of times parents do that when they're like, "No, I just want my kid to ride," and it's like, okay, well, I want your kid to have a lasting interest in this,
right?
But they're not gonna get that if they ride and the horse doesn't do what they want, and then they're just gonna be like, all right, well, it didn't do what I wanted, so I don't want to do this anymore.
Yep.
Without actually understanding the relationship that they need to form with the horse. So
right, and I don't think people understand also the confidence that you get from doing groundwork and just working around the horse in the stall and just being around them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get that much more confidence when you have that relationship with them on the ground and riding them.
Right.
They are huge animals. I don't know how anybody would expect you to just take a lesson and only ride.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, what if something happens? You know, what if you decide you want to go somewhere with someone else, not with your instructor, and something happens and you don't know diddly squat
right
about anything?
Mm-hmm.
That is not safe.
Yeah, and I that's like kind of what inspired me to keep going, like do additional classes, not riding, just focusing on horsemanship.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know, when people come to me like, oh, okay, well we need to work on some other stuff. So sometimes I might have lessons. I was like, no, we're pulling out the lunge line today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
So different things.
I respect that.
Yes, 100%, girl. Alrighty. So how did you get into horses?
So I've actually been with them literally my entire life. My dad has been training horses for like 55 years now. So the barn was like my childcare. I'd go out there literally in my car seat. My dad would just have me, right outside the horses' stalls working around them. And then when I was old enough, I would always have some little pony to jump on and go ride around. So I've been riding probably since I was 4, actually started riding lessons. Or my dad is my trainer, and I've been riding ever since. I've always had a horse around, except for when I went to college. I did have to take 4 years off, which was really hard.
I bet.
But other than that, horses is what I grew up around, and it's my life.
That's awesome. That's similar background to Caitlin.
Yep. like
it's kind of like
crazy similar, because my dad does the race horses too.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. We have a track at our farm.
What are some of the challenges that you have faced as a minority in the horse industry?
Oh, boy. Well, the only people that I saw that looked like myself growing up was my dad.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up, honestly, I just kind of accepted that, I'm just the only black girl out here.
Mm-hmm.
Because like especially my location where I'm at, the facility that I'm at is a huge showgrounds facility, and I can honestly say there's maybe like 3 or 4 African Americans that I would see.
Mm-hmm.
And they're actually, they're great riders. One does show jumpers, the other one does reining and Western pleasure, or one does reining, one does Western pleasure. So I guess you could say that's kind of all I knew at the time. And, I was just always told, you got to be the best out there. So I never really, my dad was always my idol. Mm-hmm. But then once I saw you guys, I was like, I know it's kind of late, but I'm like, I guess I'm not the only one. I'm not crazy.
No.
And I've seen a couple articles written on diversity in the horse world, and I'm like, why don't we see, other races in the Olympics or, on the big stages, because you don't see it often.
Nope.
So I guess I just kind of grew up accepting the fact that, I'm the only black girl out here.
Yeah.
And, it's nobody's fault. It's just the geographical location,
mm-hmm.
I guess you could say.
Right. So, I know that's kind of like growing up and, being in a barn, but mm-hmm. when you start entering the space of mental health, like counseling and therapy mm-hmm. and things like that, have you had any challenges navigating that space, especially with the integration of horses?
I did, because I was so young. I got my master's degree at the age of 23.
Mm-hmm.
So I was sitting at the table with people, twice my age.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, here I am having this degree. And so just trying to get my foot in the door, like right when I graduated college, I was an alcohol and drug counselor
mm-hmm.
for a rehab program for adults who were alternative sentencing. So it's like, you're doing this program or you're in prison. Mm-hmm. So here I am, a little 21-year-old, trying to counsel adults, like 40s and 50s with their drug addiction. They're like, you're just a kid. So I did have to learn to gain my respect. I started working with adults, and then I moved on to youth, and that's where I kind of latched on because I was a lot closer in age.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working kind of 2 jobs, and then I just took on the youth from there. And I sat on a lot of county boards, and a lot of people didn't understand how I was going to integrate mental health and horses, because my corporate America professional, education is in mental health and administration. But that's when I went on to go get certified with PATH as a therapeutic riding instructor and equine specialist in mental health and learning. And I just fused it together on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I just took what my personal experience with horses and my mental health, and I said, all right, we're just going to make this work. And the certifications, they helped, but a lot of it for me was kind of trial and error and making my own little spin on it.
That's like awesome. I'm interviewing myself because I started pursuing my master's in marriage and family therapy, and I was going to go through PATH to do equine therapy and merge it with marriage and family therapy. And that's so funny because, like you said, people are like, well, how are you going to do that? I'm like, well, it's possible.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you just got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after I started, working with, certain needs that were needed mentally, like maybe if focusing was an issue, I put him on my mare, who was like, oh, you got to stay focused on her, because if you stop riding, she's just going to stop walking, so
Mm-hmm.
I start to learn and put personalities of which horse fits best with whatever rider I have.
Mm-hmm.
And then the beautiful thing is each horse has their own story, and their background. And I found out that when I tell my horses' backgrounds or whatever one's in training, that people identify with them more.
Yeah, they can relate based on their own personal experiences.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So this question is just like, because so the question is, how has riding or having horses affected your life? And I feel like, it is your life. It is.
Yeah.
It's integrated in kind of every aspect of your life. So, but do you have any kind of response to that? Like, what you might even be doing if you didn't have horses or you didn't continue to pursue it? Because not everybody who's, their parents do something, kind of follows their footsteps. So what would you do if you didn't do or weren't involved with horses?
Oh my God. I honestly, I don't know. I mean, like, I'm thankful I went to college, but I've always had the dream, literally since I was younger, like, I'm going to be a horse trainer.
Mm-hmm.
So if I didn't have that and something to always go back to, because, like, I ran track in college, I had the option. I was on a full ride scholarship, so I had the option to go, continue on with that athletic career. I got my college degrees, but it always stayed, like, true to my heart that I want to be a horse trainer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what happened. I honestly don't know what I would want to, maybe I would have stayed in mental health, because that was something I did. So I probably would have stayed helping people.
Mm-hmm. Just in another
that's
way.
Probably the best thing I can say is, once you get born into horses, it just becomes your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right. What vision do you have for the future of the academy?
I would love to expand, obviously getting horses in training, but I would like to expand it to more where I can do mental health groups and counseling, like do the marriage and family counseling. For those, I do have a heart for youth in the juvenile system,
mm-hmm.
Because I've seen some that wasn't their fault, or they were just put in a bad situation they didn't ask for. So I would love to expand to be maybe like a community service, but my community service would be like, hey, let's go brush some horses, or
mm-hmm.
hey, go take the horses out to graze, kind of.
Hey, let's clean some stalls. That's a service.
Yeah. So I want to just expand it for a place for the community to be able to come and feel loved and welcome and just not stress about life, because not many
mm-hmm.
people have a place to go to. where they can just relax and not think about anything but the present, and practice mindfulness. So I want to create that safe space. And even if it's something negative that they're trying to get away from, like, oh, we have to do community service, so we don't have to go back to court or whatever. It's like, I want them to want to come, and
right.
I really just want to help people and show that horses can heal everyone. And, it's that they're just great animals and great to be around outside, on the property.
Yeah. How did you, so let's talk about like the creation of the academy. What is the full name of it?
CBC, Therapeutic Horseback Riding Academy.
Okay. What does CBC stand for?
It's actually mine and my sister's name. My name's Brittney. My sister's name is Crystal, and our last name is Chambers. So Crystal and Brittney Chambers.
Oh, well, there you go.
My dad had his racing stables, CBC racing stables. So let's keep it in the family.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is your sister involved in the academy?
No, she was in horses, but she started a family. So she still knows about horses and everything and still comes around when she has time.
Right. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
So what did you kind of have to go through? So I know that, you already like had the facility for it, if I understand that correctly.
It's I've been at this facility for 23 years.
Yeah.
So we grew up. I grew up out there.
Yeah. So how did you, I guess, get access to the kids, and how did you kind of form this program and get the word out there?
So first it was just like, family and friends. I was kind of like, hey, I'm a certified therapeutic riding instructor, and to get my certification, I had to go work at volunteer, do intern hours at another program. So, obviously while I was interning there, I was kind of like, okay, this is how you get stuff. But I'm actually contracted with 3 schools out here. So I provide services to the students of those schools. And I also have some families, who are not involved with the schools. But I'm from there, I have quite a few. Right now, I currently have about 50 students from all over, whether they're in this school or that school or totally other schools. But I get a lot of word of mouth by now. So, and then I started almost 4 years ago. December 1st will be 4 years. So, and I actually left my corporate America job less than a year ago. So I kind of just really expanded now. But right now I'm getting it all just by word of mouth and referrals for the academy.
That's nice. So how do you support it financially? Are the school, you say you contracted out, are the schools paying you for those services?
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know, mental health is a big conversation right now.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure, like if insurance is paying for some of these kind of sessions, or if you have to have certain certifications or
that's like a big discussion right now. They're trying to get equine therapy covered as mental health, but the only way you can do that right now is if you have a licensed therapist or like a licensed physical therapist. Right. They would have to do the billing. So like that's the only way a program can work. And I know PATH is like working on that right now in the industry to become, for us to push like, hey, equine therapy should be covered by insurance. But right now it's just billed if you're an LMFT or something like that.
Okay.
I think EGALA has the model with the therapist and the equine person.
Yeah, they're both in the program. Have you heard of, was it EGALA? EAG?
Yeah, EGALA.
Yeah.
I've heard EGALA. So I almost went with them, but I couldn't find someone close to me in the location. So I ended up going with PATH.
Oh, okay. So there's multiple training programs out there.
Oh yeah, there's quite a few of them out there. So you just got to find which one's in your area, but most of them are national.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Earlier, when you were introducing yourself, you had mentioned rehabbing racehorses. Could you explain what that means to someone who
we
doesn't
might
know?
have a horse come in off the track. They may just be a little sore, general leg injuries. If they have one that might have like a suspensory issue, maybe a bowed tendon, just little things on their legs. We'll just kind of treat it, let them rest up, build them back up, and then send them back to the track. So each horse might have a little something different. They might be body sore, mentally they might just need a break.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll send them to us, and then when we say, okay, they're ready to go back, then they come pick them up, and then they go back to the racetrack.
Okay, so your rehabbing sends them back to the track as opposed to, or are there situations where they get retired and are, on light work?
For the most part, they do go back. If we decide to pull one off, or if one's off, and obviously we don't send them back till they get their vet check and the vet is clear on them.
Right.
But we have had some. Recently we had one earlier this year. We were like, okay, let's pull them off. They pulled him off the track, another organization, but we had rehabbed him twice already.
Mm-hmm.
And so how the situation was, he was planning on staying with us. I was going to turn him into a lesson horse because his owner was a beginner rider, and he was a great horse, but his injury just wouldn't quite heal all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided, he needs to be retired, even though he's only 11 years old, which is still pretty young for a horse. We decided to retire him, and that, just keep him happy. Nobody can work on a horse that, keeps getting sore every couple months.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, for the most part, they always make it back, but if we're pulling them off, for good, we get the vet involved, and we just make sure that's the final decision and that they have a home to go to and everything.
Wow, because most of the times when I hear somebody say that they're going to rehab a racehorse, the racehorse isn't returning.
Right.
Yeah, it just depends, but rehab you could be rehabbing them mentally.
Mm-hmm.
We've come some to us that were just kind of like, whoa, okay, I'm just kind of just tired. So it's like, we let them be a horse again.
Mm-hmm.
We don't ask them to work. You might just be hand walked for a week or 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
groomed, hand walked, grazed, give them a chance to be a horse. And then, sometimes they'll pop back to life like, okay, I'm ready to go back to work.
Mm-hmm.
And when they show us, or when the horses tell us, yes, we're ready to go back to work, and it's like, okay, then we'll start working them slowly, building them up, getting them mentally prepared, back in shape physically, and then we send them back. But we don't do it until the horse tells us that they're ready.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's cool. I mean, I feel like 11 is old for the racetrack.
He the second time we rehabbed him, he went out and won 5 in a row.
Wow.
So, geez.
Yeah, he was doing so good, but after 11 or 12, then you have to get permission to run them, but he was just going strong. And we were like, okay, so he kept going, but then he came back to us, and he's one where we said, yeah, I think he's just ready to retire. Mm-hmm. But he had a very long, very good racing career. Now he's in Kentucky with a whole bunch of other race horses in a big green grass field.
Wow.
being spoiled just how the retired racehorses are. Oh, that's good, because we hear lots of different outcomes for retired racehorses depending on what tracks they're coming from and what kind of racing they're doing. So it's nice that you can kind of have a hand in making sure that they don't succumb to the same fate.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if I can have so many of them, I would. But thankfully, we do work with a couple people and some organizations that'll say, hey, can you take this racehorse in, train them, and then, adopt them out? Like, we have one that is about to get adopted out. And next week, I think she goes to her new home, but we've had her since July, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And she's one that I turned into a racehorse. She got bounced around quite a bit. And she came around, though, very nicely.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, what advice would you give someone who wants to pursue the same kind of thing that you're doing, like therapy work?
I would say, with horses, I would say, have experience in both. Honestly, I mean, if someone wants to do it, I would love for them to, and I would encourage it. But to do it, please take horsemanship lessons on just reading horses, because in order for it to work, you do have to make sure that you pair your student or your client with the correct horse. So, become educated and hands-on with your student or how to work with that need that they have, whether it be a mental health need or a special need, and learn how to work with horses as well. Because I have seen individuals that are really good in the mental health field, but they have no clue about horses. And I'm like, okay, we need to get well-rounded in both, so that way you can understand both. Because some people might not understand that horses will react to people. Some horses have people problems. Right. And that could be the issue. It's like, hey, your horse doesn't like that, or this horse doesn't like it when you do that. And that is a big component of the therapy, is being able to read your horse and your client at the same time. So I would just say, become educated with horses alone from as a separate thing, and then become educated in mental health, and then kind of just start comparing the two.
That's awesome. That is
so. I mean, a lot of education, but really, really, really pay attention to actions and reactions.
Right.
And then try to blend them together.
Right. That's awesome.
Knowing now that you know that there are more Black equestrians, what would you tell your younger self, if you could tell your younger self something?
I would say you're not the only one. That's when I saw your podcast, I was like, oh my gosh. It's really this is really happening. And it's kind of don't be afraid out there, don't be afraid to be different. You look different, yes, but you can still be good. And don't be, discouraged just because you're the only one out here that looks like you.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm out there with braids and a helmet. People are like, oh, is your hair real? And I'm like, yeah,
grew it last night, girl. I grew it last night.
I would just say it's okay. You're out there. You're still good enough.
Right.
You're fine. And, here I am, 29 years old, and I'm like, oh, just finding out that I'm really not alone.
Right.
And that there's other people out there that look exactly like me, that have the same love and knowledge for passion and for horses that I do.
I love that.
And so it's oh, it's a whole nother community out there, which is amazing.
Yeah. And it's so different, as we are the hosts of this podcast, but we didn't have that same experience. We grew up around hundreds of Black people riding horses.
Really? That's so cool.
Yeah, and so it started off like let's get our story out there. And so once we started, I'm like, okay, well, let's talk to the other Black people that's got horses. And then when we started looking, we were like, well, wait, where they at? Wait. Kind of outside of our little circle, well, where they at?
Right.
So it was kind of something for us, an adjustment. Okay, so all of these other people have no clue that we exist, that we and all of our family and friends exist. So it's just interesting, kind of having that comparison of experiences.
Yeah, and I think it's just where I grew up, so it's nobody's fault of their own. I'm not blaming anybody, but I just grew up being the only Black girl, and I was riding every day, so it's okay, I can ride, I can hang with you guys, but I just kind of accepted it, oh, this is what it is. And so for me being just there, I thought that's how it was everywhere. I'm watching TV, watching the Olympics. You see the same people, McLean Ward, Beezy Matta, Jessica Springsteen, and I'm like, oh, okay, look at all these people.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, oh, Mexico has a show jumping team?
Right.
So I'm like, oh, wow, look at Brazil out there.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, all these other countries have equestrian teams too.
Yeah.
And, so I'm watching it. I mean, like, I'll watch the races, and I'm like, oh, there's black grooms out there. Oh, there's black jockeys too.
Mm-hmm.
And I get excited when I see a black jockey on TV because it's another black person riding a horse.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm like, oh, okay. Then when I found you guys, I was like, oh wow, it's really out there. I'm not the only one. I can go there and blend in.
Yeah. So I read an article earlier this week. Oh, it's right here. That wasn't on purpose, but it was page 50. Hold on. It was talking about diversity. I work at an animal hospital, so we get these random articles.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, random like publications, veterinary, blah blah blah. But it was talking about diversity in veterinary medicine, and I feel like diversity and inclusion, period, can be plastered on any kind of area in world. It can be in academia, it can be in whatever your profession is, it can be in anything, education. So, but I was reading it, and it was talking about discussing diversity in the professional realm. So it just had some recommendations. The first one was be willing to face your fears and be uncomfortable. The second one was establish ground rules, like when you're having a conversation, like everybody will be respectful, yada yada yada. And then one of them really interested me, and I just wanted to get your opinion, because I've been asked by a non-black person, hey, what can we do to make it more inclusive?
Yeah.
And I want to be helpful. Like, I want to have an answer. I'm like, oh, you could do this, you could do this. But I also am like, is it the black person's responsibility to figure out how you should be helpful? So this article says, do not expect people with marginalized identities to lead the discussions. So I just wanted to, we don't normally do this, but I just found this article this week. So I just wanted to talk about that for a second. What do you guys think? Like, is it up to us to lead these discussions, or to tell non-black people how we could be more included?
I think my opinion, like, because I'm black, and like when I was getting into the corporate America world, I started at 21 years old. So here I'm this 21-year-old black girl trying to make it. I kind of just bulldozed my way in. I'm like, I'm sitting at this table. You're going to look at me and you're going to hear what I have to say. And I'm going to be, and even if you don't look at me like you're equal, I am your equal. Not in, kind of like a negative, confident type of way, but I kind of just acted like I belonged there. Like, I put my head in the books just like you. So, and I have worked at places. I've been a supervisor for group homes and stuff. And it's like, I understand what you're saying. And once I kind of like showed, no, I know how to hold a conversation with you about this topic. And, then kind of looked at me like, oh, you kind of do know what you're talking about.
Right.
And so it's kind of like, okay, we can sit here, we could talk, and so I don't think it's, anyone's responsibility.
Right.
But if you want to stand up, go stand up, go there and be present.
Yeah.
Like make yourself known, and if you want to make a change, then go sit at the table with the people who are making changes, and hold and talk the same language as them.
Right.
Have that confidence and be confident in yourself that I do belong here, if you truly believe that.
Yeah, I agree with that. What do you think?
I was messaged on social media by a woman who has her own business, and she makes like horse tack, and she was just asking me, like how you said, what can I do to
appeal to,
and how can I like enter into a more diverse I guess customer base. And then I really just told her like, well, this is what I've been doing since I was 3 years old, and they're not just going to come and find you. Like, if you want to come and find them and get to know them, then go find them and get to know them.
Yeah.
You know, like, because just me saying, oh, do this, this, and this, that's not going to work. They don't know you.
Yeah.
You know? And, I mean, even that was like, maybe, I think that was at the beginning of this year, or maybe it was last year. But even from the time that she asked that to now, people are so focused on, like, supporting Black businesses. I honestly wouldn't know what to tell her. you know? I mean, like, you can try. I have one of the halters that she made. It's cool. But if somebody finds that, one, they can make it themselves, or two, that they know somebody Black that's going to make it, they're going to go to the person that's Black.
Yeah.
So... You know, and she said, like, that disclaimer, like, please don't be offended by me asking this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not knowing how to word it. I'm just like, go hang around some Black people. You know, like, we're not scary. If you want to appeal to Black people in whatever space, or just a diverse population, whatever space, get to know people, talk to them, make relationships, network.
Yeah.
You know, don't just look at it as how can you make more money from a certain population of people.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I totally agree with that. Like, relationship and people, remember how you make them feel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you're transparent about your cause, and you don't make it money focused and say, no, I'm really trying to help, this is what I do, then, you know, people tend to come to you more. You just got to have a pure heart in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I feel like people are making this like it's rocket science when it's really not.
Like, just treat us like humans.
Right. Like, all we asked for was equality.
Right.
Like, I mean,
right.
Do you want to know how to approach Black people? Approach them like you would do anyone else you are wanting to get interest from.
Right.
Like, do your, what's it, like, market research? Like, what is it that your audience wants? What audience are you going for? What do they want? Produce something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That is not racially specific. Like, you know, why even act like that's a Black people thing? Because it's really not. So, yeah, I agree. I agree with both of what you guys said. I mean, for us as Black women, especially, getting a seat at the table and not being afraid, being confident in what we have to offer. And then as the non-Black person who is interested in accessing or selling to, or, you know, say they have a therapeutic riding program and trying to get inner city kids, like, what is it that these kids are attracted to? You know, they're not gonna always, you know, they might have experiences in their own life that tells them that you are not somebody to be trusted. So you just have to kind of figure out what it is that the audience you're going after, what they want and what they need.
What they need, because even when I, you know, like, open up the farm, when I first started opening up the farm for Sal Open Read, and it was no Black children coming at all. I'm like, okay, well, where the Black people at?
Right, this is a Black farm.
Right. Like, why are y'all not bringing out children here? This is free. But I found out it's transportation. Like, transportation is an issue. It's still an issue. And then people working, you know, they working 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 9 to 8. That was another issue. And if it was on the weekend, everything where we are, everything is pretty much shoved on the weekends if they are working all throughout the week. And people have multiple kids, you know. But transportation was the main issue. So if you feel like you have a lack of a certain population, just like you said, figure out what they need.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you guys had an opinion about that, because I read that and I was like, yeah, don't expect us to be leading this discussion. You figure it out on your own. But yeah, so anyway, do you have any other gems you would like to share to the young Black equestrians of this world that will be listening to this podcast, because they will find us somehow?
I would just say, keep going, keep following your dreams. The equestrian world is a beautiful world because you always learn something new every day.
Mm-hmm.
Each horse teaches you something new. As a trainer, I always tell my students, get as much as you can from each horse and put it in your toolbox, because when you get on the next horse, you might have something in your toolbox to help that horse.
Yeah.
I always say, learn as much as you can. Ask questions as much as you can.
Yes.
Because even if you can't apply it right then and there, you might be able to apply it somewhere else. So just keep going, follow your dreams, and don't let anybody tell you no. If you want to do it, you go out and do it. If people don't believe in you, just you do what you want to do, and you do it. Makes your heart happy by any means necessary.
Oh, that is definitely sound advice. Thank you so much, Brittney, for talking to us tonight.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Super duper
appreciate
it. Yes. So there you have it, our episode with Brittney Chambers. Isn't she just such an inspiration? You need to head over to Facebook and find CBC Therapeutic Horseback Riding Academy. Like her page, look at all the amazing work that she is doing in her community as her career and as a Black equestrian. Be sure to hop over to our Facebook page while you are at it and leave us a comment and let us know what you thought about her episode, and maybe even share something you want to hear in the future or someone you want to hear from, because we are always looking for amazing people in the equestrian field to talk to and discuss life with. So head over to Facebook or Instagram, drop a comment, let us know what you thought about this episode. Like, rate, review us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, the whole shebang. All right, y'all. See you next time.